Hello, everybody. Here is the deal. Hasan, I'm texting with right now in a group chat with Marsh. And I love that the millennials having a hard time connecting, and I'm all connected. I believe we have a hungover, dehydration, very happy boy situation, and Marsh is going to help him get connected. But I'm so excited about what has happened. I went to the Mom Donnie victory party last night. And you guys that don't know me well, I typically go to bed around like 9:30, stayed out till like 1 a.m., burned the midnight oil. It was magnificent. It was fabulous. I felt joy. I felt victory. It was just in fucking incredible. It's incredible. And I heard on the news, like Rachel Maddow saying, well, New York is so different from the rest of the world. And I think corporate journalists need to stop saying this, because what Mom Donnie did is tapping into the human experience. And right now we're all being abused by these complete fascist dorks. And everybody came together, and this is a total rebuke of all of this bullshit. Let me see. Let's see if Hasan Marie Piker, I think they're still trying to charge things and get it going. I mean, I think struggle bus would be the way to put it. But so many fun people there last night. I met David Hogg, fabulous. Mehdi Hasan. I went with Professor Ruth Ben Ghiat, who is an expert on authoritarianism and autocrats. Oh, I think we have him. All right, let's welcome. Do we have him, Kylie?
Not yet. He's connecting. I'll put him up when he's ready.
Okay, there's Kylie. I thought it said. So I saw Hasan. I saw Marsh, and we were all just so excited. And it was just like, it felt so good to feel that human connection and to win in the face of all of the shit that they're doing and acting like they are so popular, the MAGA regime. And they're not. They're just simply not. Nobody likes them except for the crazy Bible thumpers. And okay, let's see. Is he here? No. I mean, I think Hasan Marie Piker I think we're talking about a major hungover situation here. That's what I think. When I saw him last night, I noticed he was drinking a whiskey neat. It was a cup with just straight up whiskey in it, no ice in it. So you can imagine how he feels. Oh, somebody's asking if you can see Tubby and Cha-Cha. They're across the street at doggy daycare, but I will have them back on later. I was thinking about having Hasan babysit them later, just to get all of the people who think they know about Hasan riled up, because I love my dogs more than anything on the planet, as Hasan does his. Somebody says we were all New Yorkers last night, and it's so true. A lot of my friends in Oklahoma City, you guys were texting me saying we needed this. And so what happens in big cities like New York, it permeates all over the country because it reminds everybody of our connectedness. So this narrative that New York is different from the rest of the country is just bullshit, and I reject it entirely on its face. Yeah, Cuomo, he's a complete nut. I want to ask Hasan about all of that. Thank you. Somebody says I look fresh as a daisy. I don't drink alcohol anymore. So, I'm one of those annoying people the next morning that doesn't have to go on an apology tour. Remember those days when you would just drink and then you wake up the next day and you'd be like, oh, fuck, how many people do I have to apologize to this morning? It wasn't a shot collar. You guys, I've been to Hasan's stream. I've had the collar in my hand. That baby girl is so doted on. The entire house is set up for that dog. Everybody is spiraling over fucking nothing. If that's all you have on him and you've never met the dog and you've never seen the collar, sit down and shut the fuck up. That dog lies around on the sofa. I know people that claim to be dog people and they won't let their dogs in their bed. That dog sleeps with him. So it's just ridiculous. Oh my gosh, here we are. How are we? We have no sound. Hasan, you've got to pull yourself together. We can't hear you. This is so great. You guys, internationally famous streamer.
No.
Oh my gosh, there he is.
Oh, it's working. This audio is probably really bad right now. I don't know if you can hear me clearly. This is not a problem with my hungoverness, even though I am very hungover. I'm so sorry for the delay. It's entirely Marge's fault, by the way. I just want to. I was yelling at him, but no, I am hungover, but that's not the reason why this was so delayed. It was because literally everything in this room is broken for some weird reason. There was no electricity. So the
Maybe
camera,
because in your drunken stupor, you wrecked a lot of stuff last night. In your absolute drunken joy, you sabotaged your own setup. Okay, listener and viewer, we have New York City kitchen table issue right here, live with us, Hasan Piker. He is a New York City kitchen table issue. He is my political nephew, Hasan Marie Piker. I love him. I saw him last night. It was pure joy. Welcome to IHIP News, Hasan.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
How does it feel to be a kitchen table issue in New York City?
I mean, feels pretty good. I think we had a bunch of grandmas, a bunch of aunties like furiously Googling like Hasan Piker and then seeing my glossy profiles in the hot tub or on Vanity Fair, GQ, New York Times, and maybe even potentially the meat pic, like the mirror photos I used to pose of myself like shirtless. So I think they probably saw that and were like, actually, this doesn't sound too bad. Maybe America does deserve this.
Maybe we need a little thirst trap kitchen table issue. Maybe that's what America needs. And so when I watched a clip of you with that comedian, I think his name is Giancarlo, and it was like 5-star content.
Oh, Giancarlo, yeah.
Where you're watching the debate and he brings up your name twice, and you had predicted it just like you predicted Laura Loomer would do that. You're kind of politically psychic with these predictions. You know the electorate and these political strategists so well. It was amazing.
I know how insane they are. That's what it is. Because like only an insane person would think that this is actually like a viable line of attack. And I know my hogs. I'm the hog whisperer. I know how they think. I love being around them. I love studying the hog. And I think because of that reason, I can kind of predict what's going to happen next. I will say, though, that the craziest one was when I was also on John Marco's podcast the other night. I was talking about Dick Cheney and how he's had so many heart transplants and how I apologize ahead of time for saying this, but how he had a big penis. And knew about it in college, and how like that is probably part of the reason why like every time he had a boner he had a heart attack, so he had to get a new heart, and then he died. Like literally, I think while we were having that conversation, while I was talking to them, while we were taping that podcast, he died. We found out later the next morning. It's one of the most
you're kind of a right-winger political psychic. I mean, truly, the instincts are spot on. But let's talk about really quick. Kylie, put up this tweet. I thought, Bill Ackman has never written a short tweet in his life. Yeah. And this came across my feed this morning. And this is the guy who's stage 5 meltdown, scared to death of paying 2% more in taxes, AKA huge Islamophobe. And here he is at Zohran K. Mamdani. Congrats on the win. Now you have a big responsibility. If I can help NYC, just let me know what I can do. And here's what I think Zohran's campaign has exposed is the entitlement that these billionaires feel that they should have these sit-down meetings, that they are so much more important than everybody else. And the more money they spent and the more novels, pieces of shit like Bill Ackman wrote on Twitter, the more it backfired.
Yeah. I mean, the audacity. I mean, who do you think you are that you spent the last year constantly complaining about this guy, talking about the ever-present danger talking about how you were funding the movement against him, and got tens of millions of dollars from all these other major corporate donors together in an effort to fight back against Zohran Mamdani, only to be defeated, and then to turn around and be like, well, it's time. Let's talk. It's like, no, you don't. You don't talk. You listen. Okay, it's time. It's time to listen. It's time to leave the city, Bill Ackman. Why are you still in the city? I thought the mass exodus was going to take place. I thought it was woke Sharia. I thought we were doing white boy jihad. Time to leave the city, Bill. Get out of here.
And let's just talk about how I think that this victory is showing that the politics of fear-mongering and the politics of xenophobia have reached an expiration date. Thank fucking God. Because on the one hand, they tried to make the argument that Zohran is this jihadist and he's this crazy-ass Muslim. And on the other hand, he's not just at the gay pride parade. He's at the pride parade with a trans flag. Yeah. And so it became very difficult for them to continue with the fear mongering with Zohran's message of universal human rights and inclusivity. And I just feel like this is a huge moment. And I think Kanks, that's what we call Trump. I think he's feeling it too. And I want you to hear the clip. Talk about somebody who looks hungover, rode hard and put up wet. Play this clip, Kylie.
But I thought we'd have a discussion after the press leaves about what last night represented and what we should do about it, and also about the shutdown and how that relates to last night. I think if you read the pollsters, the shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. That was a big factor, and they say that I wasn't on the ballot was the biggest factor. But I don't know about that, but I was honored that they said that. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, and a very special thanks to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's doing a terrific job.
Hasan.
Oh, he looks defeated. I love that, because he's such a narcissist that this is where it just really cuts at him, right? That's why he had to do the character saving thing right there, where he's like, well, I was on the ballot. Maybe that's the reason why they lost. It's like, yeah. The Virginia race, aside from the Mamdani stuff, which was obviously fantastic. I mean, I have a close association with that race. With the Virginia one, not so much, but it was another one that I was actually very interested in, and actually not the Spanberger race, not the gubernatorial race, but I was actually interested in the Attorney General Jay Jones race, because I have had this mindset, and actually I think your political journey, as a matter of fact, has played a role in my in this mindset that I have now about where the liberal base is at. And I think that there are regular, lifelong, straight ticket Democrats all around the country that are far to the left, much, much further to the left than the actual establishment Democratic Party right now. And I think they saw Jay Jones, who I'm referencing in the Attorney General race, who had these text messages get leaked. And they were crazy. They were crazy text messages. That's a career ender for usually any kind of politician, right? That's a career ender for your ambitions. Talking about, if you had, he was doing the Office bit, I think, where he was like, oh, if I had 2 bullets in my revolver in a room full of this Republican state assembly member, Pol Pot and Adolf Hitler, I'd use both bullets on the Republican state assembly member. And I was like, damn, that's crazy, right? And he won. And the Republicans spent so much money. They dumped so much money into that, being like, Jay Jones is using violent rhetoric. Do we really want this, criminal to be the Attorney General? And it turns out, in Virginia especially, where there are a lot of people that work for the federal government and a lot of people that have already been impacted by the Doge cuts early on and then haven't been paid for a month, that are obviously chomping at the bit to just respond to the Trump administration. And they looked at that. They looked at those text messages and said, bet. Jay Jones went, he went halfway. They looked at his text messages and said, actually, I think that's awesome. And they voted for him for Attorney General. And I think, while I disavow, while I condemn the violent rhetoric, I abhor the violent rhetoric. I think a lot of people are just so sick and tired of this fake bullshit, excuse my language, that the Republicans do all the time, where they're like, we're really got to tone down the rhetoric here, while they simultaneously go, everyone is a woke Antifa transgender terrorist that must be put down with lead. It's like, you can't do that. You can't keep doing that and then also cry foul when, you know, private correspondence gets leaked into the media and someone is using maybe not such a great language to describe what must be done to some Republicans. So clearly the people don't care about this anymore. The liberals don't care about this anymore. They just want to stick it to the man. They want to stick it to the Republicans, and I'm here for it. I love it.
I love it. And I think this comes down to this idea of credible messengers. And you probably saw where I got into it with Senator Booker. And he got mad at me and he was like, oh, the left, you put us through this purity test. And I was like, that's such bullshit. And he was like, oh, come on. And I was like, it's not a purity test. We just want a credible messenger. And when Corey is going on for 25 hours about human rights for all of these groups, and then he can't extend that empathy to Palestinian children, he no longer is a credible messenger. And I think people are fucking sick to death of hypocritical messengers. That's not a purity test. That is not us playing gotcha politics. Nobody even gives a shit about the purity stuff anymore. Nobody's policing anybody's language anymore. It's like, we are here. And as for women like me or people in the electorate like me that lived out MSNBC libs for a long time, I realize that I've moved further to the left. I think a lot of people don't realize what it is that they moved further to the left. But I think this is an opportunity that if Hakeem and Chuckles were smart, their asses would have been on the stage last night and they would have been riding the coattails of this movement. And it would have been, holding hands, arms up, the way the Democratic establishment always does. How many times have we seen the Clintons with Obama and they're holding hands, and Joe Biden, everybody's arms are up in the air, no matter who's running, they roll everybody out. And so the fact that Hakeem and Chuckles missed out on this shows you that their credibility is waning. And I think what happened on the right in 2016, everybody's sick to fucking death with the status quo. Then Trump filled that vacuum. On the right, that's what's happening now on the left. Everybody is sick to death of the status quo of the Democratic Party. I think a lot of people don't realize that they've gone further to the left, but I think it would be an opportunity if we had real leadership. I'm talking about the Senate minority leader and the Senate House leader that could message and say, they want to call us far left, but universal child care is not far left. They want to say that we're far left, and you filing for medical bankruptcy is not far left. And I wish that they would step in there and message it more. But I'm wondering, what can we do about Chuckles and Hakeem? I mean, I just think now's the moment. Can they, I don't know. I'm not politically savvy enough to know. Can they get rid of them in the leadership positions?
Yes, Chuck Schumer, easy. He's most likely gone. It depends on what AOC wants to do, or it depends on what someone who's remotely politically savvy in the state wants to do. He is deeply despised. Hakeem Jeffries is a little bit more difficult of an undertaking, not because he is a particularly popular candidate. At the national level, he is deeply unpopular in a similar way to Chuck Schumer, but he does have the institutional backing. He is the hand-selected continuation of Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi groomed Hakeem Jeffries for this position, and he will be the most powerful Democrat because of the way that the Democratic Party's dynamic works. We usually, the House of Representatives, the majority speaker, is oftentimes has more power and more prowess within the party infrastructure, so I think Hakeem Jeffries is nationally unpopular, but he is very popular in his own district, even though his own district actually went to Zohran by a pretty significant margin. So it's entirely dependent on what the DSA infrastructure looks like in New York, if they want to unseat him, if they want to take on that battle. I do assume that they are probably going to be reluctant to do that, considering that this is a very important moment for the left. I think Zohran represents, he probably sees himself as representing the broad leftist movement and helping people like yourself and many others who tune into your broadcast communicate their desires that are somehow a little bit different than what the Democrats have presented so far, like an alternative to that. So for that reason, I think like that would be a knife fight, I think. So there's a little bit of, I'm sensing a little bit of reluctance on that end. But if you're asking me, are these guys going to get on board with the movement? The answer is probably not, because their positions and their ideology is calcified. And the reason why they got to this position of power is because this is the kind of politics that they represent, and that's what the party infrastructure was demanding. Democrats also have a major problem. We're getting really into inside baseball here, but Democrats have a major problem in the party infrastructure with seniority, where they cannot cast aside seniority arguments. That's why we saw Jerry Connolly become the head of the oversight committee, even though people were like, he's so old, he's going to die. What are we doing? And then he did die, right? That was a major mistake. Putting AOC there as a vibrant, dynamic, young, youthful face for the Democratic Party at a time when people are demanding someone fight back would have been the appropriate thing to do. But Nancy Pelosi literally called in from a hospital bed in Europe. She was in France. She fell. She broke her ass. And she was in a hospital bed. And she made the boss call to say, no, we are not letting AOC be the head of oversight. You're giving that to Jerry Connolly, who at the time was like 78 or something and had a cancer diagnosis. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
I was so mad.
They're so beholden to this idiotic seniority structure they have inside of this party. It's like, it's very interesting. It's like practically Stalin. It's the way that they approach this issue. It's like it's devoid of any sort of investment in making reasonable changes or even fighting back against the Republicans, and it reflects with the discontent that the base has towards the party now. Discontent that has basically turned into animosity.
Very much so. I have a lot of friends in Oklahoma City, wealthy women that used to be Republicans that their husbands joke around with them now, and because they all have a group text and call it the communist group text. And that's happening all across the country with people that are fed up. And I do think Hakeem is going to have a slight problem with the AIPAC donations. That item is becoming more and more and more toxic. Yeah. And I didn't know what AIPAC was a couple of years ago. I didn't. And now everybody knows what it is.
I love that.
Everybody knows what it is, and it is super toxic. But speaking of, if I were to make a list of the most worthless Americans on the planet, the number one most worthless American, in my opinion, is Moses Mike Grinder Johnson. This motherfucker has power, and yet all day long, he gives his balls to Kanks to keep in the top drawer of the Oval Office desk. And then God only knows what he does with his balls at night. I'm sure he's teabagging all over Grinder with him. But here he is, Moses Mike, after Mom Donnie's win, and he is on the news all the time doing shit like this. Play the clip.
For the first time in American history, an avowed, openly proclaimed socialist has been elected as the mayor of America's largest city. Zohran Mamdani is without a doubt the biggest win for socialism in the history of the country, and it is the biggest loss for the American people.
Thank you,
Mike. He
Mike.
is truly a committed Marxist. And the results of that race tell you everything you need to know about where the Democrats and their party are headed.
Okay. All right.
Music to my ears. What these guys are representing as this like terrifying prospect for America is in some ways truthful for the first time ever, because they call Nancy Pelosi a communist, right? They call
Obama.
Who had the audacity to say that Jeff Bezos is a socialist. I'm like, that's one of the wealthiest people on the planet. What do you mean socialism? You don't understand it. But when they talk about Mamdani, there is truth to that. And I think it's a great opportunity because of what we just talked about. I think that this is not a radical movement necessarily, but a movement that represents real change, a movement that wants to fight back against the Trump administration, a movement that puts people first, regardless of their color, their creed, their ethnicity. This is a movement that is class first in many respects, and I think that it is a unifying movement on that principle, and I think that's good. It's not a bad thing, and I think more and more Americans are going realize that maybe they have a little bit of that socialism in them as well. And it's not, maybe they were propagandized against. Maybe it wasn't so scary.
I want to ask you something, because having grown up in a red state for all of my life, the decades long propaganda against the word socialism has been very effective. And I'm wondering if some politicians that are running in red states, and also because a lot of people don't know what socialism is, should roll out the phrase regulated capitalism and talk about unregulated capitalism, because there's so much damage to the word socialism and any linking of any sort of economic populist candidate winning in a state like Kentucky or Oklahoma, even though Andy Beshear won, and that's something that we should all study. But I'm wondering if some candidates that are as left as an AOC don't roll this out using the language like, we are for regulated capitalism, because if we don't have regulations, airplanes fall out of the skies, your kid gets hooked on opiates, cigarettes kill you, cancer clusters pop up, unregulated capitalism kills people. What do you think about that type of like bridge messaging to flyover states?
So here's the thing. I work with people who are social democrats. I work with people who are democratic socialists. I work with people who are, card carrying Marxist Leninists. I don't mind it. As long as you want to uplift the working class, I'm there with you. I'm by your side. I'll fight right next to you. There are plenty of liberals who attend these protests against, ICE kidnapping people, and I'm right by their side. I think it's great. I don't necessarily care about how people build their movement. There is obviously a deep well of tradition and a lot of success, maybe not in the United States of America, but a lot of success internationally with this identity, with this movement. And it actually means more than just regulating capitalism as well. But I think the reason why I don't have an issue with the term is the same reason why, although I'm not like a practicing Muslim at all, I say, look, I'm Muslim, and it contains multitudes. Like being a Muslim who is like, the reason why I present myself as such is because I want Westerners and people that don't actually encounter Muslim people to understand, like, it's not this monolithic understanding, the scary barbaric Muslims that want to implement Sharia law or whatever people think, and that there are plenty of people like myself who are, just like Zohran, very woke, right? Like, it's not. It's important to disparage the stereotypes of that sort, and I think it's good to also get people on their own journey of learning about what it is, like what the problems of capitalism are, and what socialism is as well, because not everyone is taking sociology courses, but if anyone has taken a sociology course in college, Karl Marx is a pretty important part of the entire field. And it's because his analysis over capitalism and all of the inherent contradictions within capitalism are very important to identify what the issues are. There's a reason why, even like you said, sometimes I guess come across as prophetic almost, but that's only because, like, I'm looking at and examining closely the contradictions, and I'm applying what I know within the framework of historical materialism, dialectical materialism, that is another part of the socialist understanding of the world. And I'm trying to make that as palatable as possible. I'm trying to make that as understandable as possible without using this terminology that I'm using here. But the backbone is that the backbone is that education, for me at least. Like, that is what grounds my worldview, and I think it's good for people to also explore that side of the world, especially because they've been heavily propagandized against it. So it's good to just break through. That's why I think Bernie Sanders was so important in 2016, even though he ended up losing. The fact that he got so close and represented this alternative and was open about calling himself a socialist was important for a lot of people, because they went, wait a minute, maybe I'm a socialist. I mean, that's what Zohran said, right? Zohran literally said, hey, Bernie Sanders gave me the tools to communicate my desires. Like, he made me realize that maybe I'm a socialist too. So, like, this is the reason why I think it's good to continue pushing that on, even in red states as well. Many of these states have a long, storied tradition of labor militancy, and we need to bring that back. But the reason why we don't have that in these states, whether it be West Virginia or even Oklahoma, for example, is because labor unions have been gutted. And a big part of labor unions was also the labor education, the historical education, the political education that comes along, a sense of community that comes along with this kind of organizing. And it's a difficult path, but we will continue doing it, and we'll continue pushing it. And I think eventually people will be able to recognize their class position and maybe even find themselves self-identifying as socialists potentially.
And I think the Bernie Sanders lesson is so important that even though he lost, that message won, and he primed the soil for candidates like Zohran to succeed. And so when there are Democratic socialists running in red states, you might run for the sake of priming the public to a different narrative and offering them a different worldview. And you might have to lose a couple of times, but that's how the Christian nationalists have gotten power, because they've been doing this for decades. And so we have to play the same long-term game. Okay, before we have to go, but I want to ask you, how many cocktails did you have last night? I noticed you were drinking, it looked like a neat whiskey. How many? What's your drink count?
I think I have 4. I had 2 doubles, and then I had to leave to go do this BBC interview at 12.
Did you do it drunk?
I was a little buzzed, I will admit, but it's all good. I mean, this is buzzed or not. I'm a yapper, as you know. And then my friend, who's the main campaign advisor, was texting me like, "Oh, we're still here." So I actually got in an Uber after the interview, went back to the bar, but by that point, Zohran had left. But I got to hang out with a lot of the people on the DSA side, and all the canvas leads and all the field organizers that play this formative role in getting Zohran elected. And it was. I had another drink there, so 5 total.
You earned it. I hope you hydrate today. Hasan, Marie, Piker, I love you. You are my nephew. There we go.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Safe travels, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.